I'm Vedran Zenzerovic, lead QA engineer at ASEE. I've been working on UniCredit at the moment and for 8 countries and giving support to other projects such as a product, which is main ASEE application project. I have 10 years experience in automation. I've been working for Kaufman Fast Track, Village Plan, Performology, Sample 6, and mainly in financial sector, and so I know what clients more or less want. So automation and simplifying for the future. Why did I name this webinar this? Because in my 10 years of experience, I gathered all the issues and all the things that clients want and all the issues that in company and at work come to. So we try to avoid those in future products and in future projects, and we want to have easier start with automation so we can concentrate more on writing tests rather than setting up everything and doing everything from the scratch, and for both platforms and stuff like that. So some of the topics with our frameworks we wanted to cover is use, learn, write, maintain. Anybody can use this test. We have support for Jenkins, which we use for simply UI reasons, but also CLI pipeline. But because of the UI, we have a lot of requests from our clients that sometimes a client wants to run the test, but they don't have any automation knowledge or programming knowledge. So we made tests so basically anybody can run them with simple tags, which we'll get later in a bit more. It's easy to learn. We made our own methods and we use page object model. Page object model we use simply for easily tracking and mapping all the elements on every page. And custom methods we use because our framework is done so it can support both Android and iOS. So our methods are named pretty readable. So scroll to element, swipe to element, and stuff like that. So it's easy to learn and easy to use in the steps. It's easy to write the test case as well, because we are using Cucumber and we have system, and each method in Cucumber is more like a step rather than a series of steps. So you can easily copy paste those steps and make your own tests when we are finished with mapping everything, right? And it's easy to maintain for us. It's simple project architecture. We have multi-module project. We divided mobile testing, web testing, API testing, and also we have some additional modules that will help us with testing and with our framework. So first, I would like to talk about adaptive elements, which is ASEE's main product and type of application we use and make with our clients. It enables us to use rapid development of native mobile applications by using these adaptive elements as building blocks. So how does this work? This works something like this. What this means is every element and every element has its own ID, and every element has its own other attributes like text and stuff like that. And this makes us easier to map element and be sure that we are not clicking on wrong element. This also shows us that everything that is in application, everything from application comes from server side. So basically in application, there's not much until you register application, activate it, and then you pull everything from the server into the application. So for example, let's see the button. It's going to have resource ID with a button, and we can use text and resource ID to map the element so it doesn't click on wrong element, but it clicks on the right element every time. This also means that we can map every element even before it comes to the application. So basically, we can just write a test for that element or multiple tests for that element even before it's in an application and even before it's implemented in. We just need to know the text and we just need to know the ID, which type of element is. So basically, once we get the specifications, we already start writing tests for both iOS and Android at the same time. So to go back to easy to use, we made these various variables to use in Jenkins or to use outside Jenkins, like in command line or various editors, Eclipse and IntelliJ. We wanted to make it as simple to run as possible. So basically, any client can run the test if they want to, and if they have a mobile phone and application. So you can run the test by simply doing the tags, which test you want to run, choosing the platform, which iOS version, which operating system version is, UDID for your mobile app versions, who is the tester. We also have a lot of other variables to, for example, turn on the automatic Jira ticket reporting, turn on and off, turn on downloading of application or off, turn on downloading the translations and text, so we can use it in our framework. So basically, this part was done with sole purpose to simplify for people that don't know how to program, use code editors or command lines and stuff like that. For us, others that want to work on framework, we can use any other, of course, option. But this is simply to simplify for a client, so we don't have to work that in future. It's easy to learn. So this is the part where we wanted to tackle one of the issues, and that's like more of a project issue than a client issue. So what we do here is we want to use our methods and our way to simply interact with elements in application, so new colleagues can learn. We all know that colleagues come and go. We all know that work environment constantly changes, and sometimes you even get students as your colleagues. So in order to not waste time for clients to teach new colleagues or new project people, to teach them the code constantly, we made it so it's pretty much easy to learn. You can have some basic knowledge of Java, but you don't even have to know that, because we use our elements. So this is how we map elements in our code. For example, you see amount field, it's mapped for both iOS and Android. We use expat. We know that expat is a bit slower than rest of the attributes, but that slowness is so insignificant that we can use expat it can be more custom than other locators. We can use multiple locators and or locators and stuff like that. So we basically have project separated in three parts. One part is basic part, which clients and newer people don't do or touch this. That's just, let's say, backend, where we work on our methods. For example, scroll to element method, wait method, and type in property method. Those are basic methods that we use to interact with elements. And once you define the element, we make methods, for example, amount field, enter amount. So you can enter into amount field the text, the typing property. So basically what's in the property, default values, or you can use type in without properties, so you don't type in properties, but directly text. We use type in property for some of the tests because we can verify very easily what's been typed in and stuff like that. So this is scroll to element, wait, and type in properties are basic methods that we use in writing our tests and interacting with elements. And then enter amount is element methods that we call them element methods that we use in steps. So basically when we write steps, we use element methods that automatically verify if the element is there and verifies interaction with the element. So it's pretty much easy to write for newer colleagues and students. I had experience for like last 4 years in ASEE that we working. I taught 4 to 5 people from scratch. They learned this framework and they had no knowledge in programming, no knowledge in automation, and they picked it up pretty easily and have been working on these projects for a while. We have all sorts of methods, searching for elements on the page by swiping and scrolling, all sorts of verifications if the interaction with element was done or not. For example, switches, if the switch is turned on or off. And also all the elements are supported by iOS and Android. So if we need to change scroll to element method or scrolling to element, we don't have to go to every step. We don't have to go to every element. We don't have to change those methods. We just change them on one place and it should affect everything and work fine. So it's easy to write. The part why we use Cucumber is basically just because of the clients. So they can easily, not just because of the clients, but reports as well. So we can easily write the test, the client, and read the test. So, and we have this system that we interact with element. We don't use Cucumber steps to cover multiple steps. We use them to cover just one step. So basically you can copy paste all these steps and write your own tests, and they should work if it fits the workflow. You don't even have to copy paste them. You can just start writing them and it will autofill in IntelliJ, for example. So for all of our tests, we have a precondition to have a activated application. So once that application is activated, you can just use tags and run the test, whichever test you want to run. Every test case has their tag and every test page has their tag. So you don't have to run one test, you can run all the tests on that page. The scenario is the test case name, right? So how we write our Cucumber tests. It contains with, of course, Cucumber syntax, then, when, and, etc. Then we use the action for going to different page. We use go to. For turning on switches, we use turn. For entering, we use set or tape. For selecting or entering, we use type or set. Depends on different kind of fields. We have verify. We also have click and stuff like that. So how we use that for first syntax, then action, then variable, which we use, then the element. Sometimes we don't have the variable. For example, go to ATM daily limits, that's an element. So we don't just use variable, we go straightly to element. This is used so everybody can know how to write tests, and we can easily write our own test by using and copying these steps into other tests. So basically, if we want to have similar test for debit cards, we can move and remove some of the steps here or copy them into another test and manage them how we want, verify what we want. This is used so because as I said, our adaptive elements uses elements from the server side. So there's not going to be two same elements on pages or on different pages. It's always going to be the same element on all pages. So these steps are as methods, element methods are more used to as interaction with element and verification if that interaction with element did work. And it did lead to good page, for example, then go to cards page or card options, clicks, first verifies if the button for card options is there, then it clicks it, and then it verifies if the card option title is there and if it opened the right page. So as element methods, the cucumber steps also use as interactions with element. So basically anybody can write their own tests and read them, and it's easier to read and write and know what actually is happening while the test runs, as opposed to having one cucumber step with multiple methods inside and doing multiple things. So it's easy to maintain. So how is it easy to maintain? We separated our framework into different parts. We are using page object model, which is only in testing modules. And with that, we can easily work on different parts, change different parts without affecting the tests in themselves. We can always improve our framework, remove features, add features without even, sorry, without touching the main part of the mobile testing or the web testing of the API testing. So what we did here is made our framework into multi-module project to have better control. So what everything does is download files. So download files module allows us to download APK files and IPA files for testing. We usually use our portals. So we use Playwright in order to just download files fast and easy that we can use later on in testing. Translations needed for locators. This is more specific to adaptive elements than anything else, because with the adaptive elements, and as everything is on server side, we can easily download all the text and translations for the application. As I mentioned before, I'm working on UniCredit, and I'm responsible for 8 countries. That means it's 16 applications. 8 countries, meaning 8 Android applications and 8 iOS applications. And one of the issues that we occurred right in the beginning was a lot of translation changes and text changes, which would cause elements to not be found, and it would cause tests to fail for no good reason. Test would fail because of some grammar change, uppercase change to lowercase, or vice versa. The changes of translations, the changes of headlines, the changes name of buttons, and those would occur very often, especially in the beginning of development of application. Later on, it doesn't change a lot, but in the beginning, we want to cover the test as much as possible because it's the beginning of development. We want to find the bugs fast and as fast as we can. So what we did is we download the CSV file, the file that contains keys and values with translations. So if I go back for a second, as you can see here in our locator, we have a key. This is a key from CSV file. It has 16 values, for example, English and native language values. And what we did exactly is we download the CSV file from Bitbucket from server for anywhere we want through API. It doesn't open any, no downloads here, open any browsers. It's all headless and API. So we made a class that downloads the CSV file from our Git repository, and then transforms those keys and values into a class that contains public static strings, which you can use in locators. So what happens here? Every time we run our framework, it's going to first download the CSV file. It's going to turn those into public static strings, and it's going to update all locators in the application, in a framework. So we are not getting wrong text. So we are not going to get wrong translations. It's always going to click on a button. Doesn't matter if it says submit in a lowercase or in an uppercase. We are testing the with that, we are also testing the translation and text in the application. So if it's everything pulled right, or if everything is written right, it's gonna test it nice. So this saves us a lot of time, because some of the clients require constant regression test runs. They want to constantly run the test, and every time new version of application starts, they want to run the test. So in order to save time and constantly change the locators for and especially if it's some major changes in application, those locators, there's a lot of pages and there's a lot of test cases that you will need to change and you will need to take care of. And this just saves that problem, saves a lot of time, and you can use framework without concentrating too much on constant changes of text. This also applies to test data. Test data is going to be pulled from some CSV, so you can use multiple users with multiple different credit cards, accounts, debit cards, and stuff like that. So it's going to pull test data from a CSV file. For each country, you can have same as translation, but only with test data. It's going to pull test data into property files in framework, and then it's going to use that test data in testings and verifications. So again, this is done because one of the issues that we occurred is the test data is changing constantly. There always have server maintenances and stuff like that with user data. So we're gonna have to constantly change test data, and in order to avoid that, we designed a system where you can just change test data in your CSV file or Excel file or whatever, and it's gonna import it and be used in a testing. And other files needed from portals and Git repositories, if needed, can be downloaded from this. So inputting file, this is what I was talking about. It's creating translation class for locators and class with test data that we're going to use later on in writing tests, mapping elements, and stuff like that. So the mobile testing module consists from both iOS and Android support. We as well decided to go with the multi-platform framework because it saves time. Saves time to write one regression test or one complete test for both, then to write two tests. And as well, it saves us a lot of time with running the tests, because as we run multiple countries, we can run one country on Android, another on iOS at the same time. Or you can run same framework or same country on two different devices, but you need to have two different test data, so we don't have test data conflicting while the tests are running. So basically, for example, we want to avoid if one user is testing blocking the credit card, we don't want to test with same user on iOS on a different platform, because it's going to conflict the tests. So you have to use different test data, or just test different country one. It contains test pages and objects, and it contains some of the mobile testing or testing features that are not that cannot fit into other modules, such as automated Jira reporting. So basically, this is something we can turn on and off. We made per client request. We made this from framework, and we made this so you can turn it off or on, depending on how stable your tests are. If your tests are not stable, you will not be able to you will not be able to use automated Jira reporting in full extent. It's going to report tons of tickets that are not going to be valuable, because the framework is not stable. So you can turn that off while you are working on your framework. The Jira reporting contains of filling every field. So basically, every field you can map in Jira ticket reporting. It's gonna also add screenshot at the time of each step. When each step fails, if any of step fails, it's gonna stop the test case. It's gonna report the ticket, and it's gonna paste the screenshot in it with timestamps, with everything, and it's gonna paste into description last 3 steps or 4 that were being used, so you can know what exactly happened with the ticket. Also, it generates the test case name into summary. It generates all the data you need to see to have a complete ticket in your disposal. The other thing that we have is reporting. One of our clients also requested to have testing reports sent each time the test is done. We are currently using Extent Report because it's pretty easy to use, and the way we named everything, it's more easier to read and check the reports. It also has screenshot in reports and stuff like that. So we are trying to cover as much as possible. Web testing and API testing is pretty much the same, except it's not multi-platform, it's multi-browser support, test steps and cases, page objects, and reporting and stuff like that. So what we wanted to do with this is save a lot of time with maintaining the project, save a lot of time with running the project, and save a lot of time with setting up the project for new projects, for new applications. For example, we had to move this, we had another client that wanted to use this framework, and the only thing we needed to change, except the page objects and test cases, was just application package and bundle ID for iOS. So in order we can just run the tests and start working immediately on the tests, as well as start writing tests before any features come into the application. So it's easier and it's on the go. We can constantly test it, and it's, as I said, supported with Jenkins. So you have UI, and we are all as well, sorry, working on UI, so you don't even have to have Jenkins, but you can run the test through UIs. And that's about it. We work hard on this. We wanted everybody to learn, to write, especially new people coming to test. We wanted to learn even in Java. The only thing that we don't support is multi-language, because we're going to work on that as well. And we are also working on minimizing the test steps. For example, we are not going to use multiple steps for clicking on a button. We're going to use one step that's going to search the button by its text and by its resource ID. So you can just go to click save button, click next button, and it's always going to use one step, and you can use it everywhere. This is done just so everybody can write tests, anybody can read tests, and we are trying to do so the QA engineers are not much involved in writing the tests and test cases and running those, as much as upgrading the framework, doing giving new features, writing new features to run the test, for example, push notifications, or maybe implementing API testing and better verification and stuff like that. And that's about it. The only thing that we are currently having problem is when servers are down and stuff like that, and that's not something we can have any effect on. We are trying to now make a list of troubleshootings and every issues that we can occur, and just add solutions to the framework. So every time a client wants to have automation testing, it's possible to use it in a matter of days. And that's about it from me. Hope you enjoyed it.